Most C# developers know extension methods. You've probably written a few yourself. A convenient way to seemingly add functionality to a type you don't own. But C#14, which shipped with .NET 10, didn't just give extension methods a new look. It gave us capabilities that were never possible before. Extension properties, static extension methods, and even extension operator overloading. Today we are going to look at all of them. Let's start with a quick reminder of how extension methods work, because the new syntax builds directly on this foundation. Imagine we want to reverse a string. We'd like to call reversed method on any string instance, like this. This doesn't compile, because string doesn't have a reversed method, and we can't modify the string type. It belongs to the core .NET libraries. What we can do is define reversed as an extension method. Let's do it. A few things to notice here. The class must be static. The method itself also must be static. And the key ingredient is the this keyword before the first parameter. It marks that parameter as the type being extended, which is what makes this a callable extension method rather than a regular static method. With this in place, we can call reversed as if it were a method defined directly on string. C#14 introduces a new way to write extension methods. The goal is the same, adding methods to types we don't own, but the syntax looks different, and for good reason. Let's see it in action. Let's say we want to add a capitalize first letter method to string. This doesn't compile yet. To define this extension using the new syntax, we go back to our string extensions class and write what's called an extension block. The extension block declares the type we are extending, here string, and assigns a name to the instance of that type, which we'll use to refer to it inside the block. Think of input as the implicit parameter that represents the string we are calling the method on. Everything we define inside this block will be an extension member of string. Now, let's define the method itself inside the block. Compare this to the traditional syntax. We no longer write static, and there is no this string input parameter. The method looks almost exactly as it would if we were writing it directly inside the string class. The responsibility for declaring it as an extension has moved to the extension block. The method itself stays clean. It's important to understand that this is a purely syntactic change. Internally, this method compiles to the same thing as the traditional version. It's still a static method in the string extensions class. Let's prove that. This compiles without issues, which confirms that capitalized first letter is just a regular static method that happens to look like an instance method when called on a string. Now, here is something that wasn't possible at all before C#14. Adding a static method to a type we don't own. Imagine we want to call hasValue directly on the string type, not on an instance, but on the type itself, like a static method. Before C#14, there was no way to make this work. Extension methods could only be called on instances. But now, we can define a static extension method using a slightly different extension block, one without a parameter name. Let's define the hasValue method. Notice the difference between those lines. Here, we don't have the parameter name. This signals that the members defined here are static in nature. They belong to the type, not to an instance. Inside the block, we define hasValue with an explicit parameter, because static methods don't have an implicit input reference. With this in place, this line started compiling. We've seemingly added a static method to the string class, without modifying it. The next new capability is extension properties. Let's say we want string to have an isUpper property that tells us whether all characters in the string are uppercase. Before C#14, this wasn't achievable. Extensions only supported methods, not properties. Now we can define it inside our instance extension block. The property is defined exactly as it would be inside the string class, and it has access to input, the value declared in the extension block. As you can see, one block can hold multiple extension members, which keeps related extensions organized in one place. Now this line compiles without issues. The last capability I want to show you is extension operator overloading, and this one is genuinely surprising. Imagine we could write something like this. We're trying to use the slash operator on strings to build a file path. This doesn't work today because string doesn't overload the slash operator. But with C#14, we can add that overload as an extension. I've placed it in the static extension block, because operator overloading requires the static keyword, just like in a regular class. Keeping static members together in their own block makes the intent clearer. With this in place, our path building code compiles and works correctly. One last thing worth showing. Extension blocks work with generic types as well. Let's say we want to add a method to any enumerable of t that formats the collection as a comma-separated string. I'm using the name asstring rather than toString intentionally. ToString on a list gives us just the type name, not the contents. asstring will join all items with a comma. Let's define a new static class for this extension. And inside it, let's write a generic extension block. Because the type we are extending is generic, the extension block needs a type parameter as well. Let's now define the asstring method inside the block. The type parameter t is declared on the extension block itself. Inside the block, we don't repeat it. Input is already typed as IEnumerable of t, and a string simply uses it. And now this line works as expected. To summarize, C#14 extension members are more than just a new syntax. They bring capabilities that weren't possible before: static extension methods, extension properties, and extension operator overloading. These give us much more control over how we extend types we don't own. If you want to strengthen your C# foundation and get more comfortable with the language overall, you can join my course, Ultimate C# Masterclass. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching.